As humans, we are built with a strong drive to connect. And when something doesn't work out with somebody, it is painful. And we tend to think, well, I guess they weren't interested or they weren't attracted. That is often the case, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not an issue of rejection, it's an issue of psychology and communication, where our wires have gotten crossed. I don't want us to miss potential connections that could mean a lot to us. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what I think of as the 3 hidden barriers to connection. These are 3 ways that we may accidentally or unintentionally cut off these potential relationships before they have the chance to blossom. My hope is as you understand this and learn about it, it'll give you a few things to do that will open up the opportunities for you in the future. I'm Dr. Thomas Smithyman. I wrote a book on psychology and dating. In my work, I've found that people are falling into these traps. And if we can catch it and make some tweaks, it can actually make a big difference in their social lives. Most of the time, you're going to discover that it's not a fit with somebody. That's how it normally is. But that's not what I care about. What I care about are the potential connections that we're missing out on. So when I was applying to PhD programs, I did not get an interview with my top choice university. And I was a bit bummed about this. And then I happened one day to look in my spam folder, just randomly, and I discovered an interview request. And it was in a week. And I was across the world in Australia. So I panicked and booked a flight and interviewed, and that's where I went to grad school. I could very well have had a different trajectory in my life if I hadn't checked the spam folder. This is a bit like the way dating works, right? The school was interested in me, and my email had filtered them out, so I had no idea. And I felt rejected, honestly. We don't want the same thing to happen in our social worlds. We don't want to have our system set up so that we are filtering out people who could potentially be into us. Okay, so I first started trying to understand this many years ago when I came across an article where the researchers were trying to figure out if 2 people are attracted to each other and they're interested, what prevents it from working out? Why don't they get together? And what they found is that there's a difference in how we interpret the other person's behavior versus ours. Neither person makes a move, but if you ask us, why not? We say, well, I was afraid of rejection. Whereas if you ask us, well, why didn't they do it? We'll say, they didn't like me. It's the same behavior, but we have 2 different interpretations. And what that means is the 2 people liked each other, but both of them walk away thinking they got rejected. This is known as pluralistic ignorance, and it comes up in a bunch of different areas. What leaves all this room for error in socializing and dating is that as humans, we communicate our attraction and interest safely, subtly, and ambiguously. There's all of this room for errors in interpreting and errors in sending the interest. And so that ends up breaking down in 3 particular ways. The communication is not sent, the communication is not seen, or the communication is not accepted or understood properly. Number 1, I call this preemptive rejection. You decide in advance, they won't like me, so I will give up before I try. Who knows how many potential relationships have failed to ever happen because of this. We've played out a fictional scenario in our head where they don't like us, and then we reject ourselves, and then we never try. So here's the problem with preemptive rejection. The more time we spend preemptively rejecting ourselves, unsurprisingly, in the research, we find that it makes us more anxious and more lonely and more likely to avoid actually trying to socialize and interact with people. From the research, we also know that if we expect people to be rejecting and mean to us, we act in ways that tend to confirm that. So let's just deliberately go in with an open mind. It tends to be healthier for us to just go out and socialize and be pro-social more often, to discover who might be into us rather than predicting it in advance. Another problem with preemptive rejection. We act as though we can know who someone will and won't be into. If you're thinking, yeah, I think you can, well, the science says, no, you really can't, right? There is a little bit, right? If we know how picky someone is, sure, that tells us something. We can look at maybe just generic attractiveness for ourselves and them. Maybe that tells us a little bit of something. But the research tells us that the majority of why two people like each other is down to just those two people. We can't predict it. And even computers punching in tons and tons of report data and a bunch of information, they still can't predict it. Overall, we're just really, really bad at predicting who someone is going to be into. On top of all that, we don't really know how we appear to other people. In one study, they had someone interact with a bunch of different people, and they discovered that the person made a different impression with different people. People do not see us uniformly. So when I put all this together, the way that I think about it is like, why bother trying to predict in advance? Just go out and socialize more and give people the chance to like you. Give that spark a chance to happen. So that first barrier to connection stops us from interacting at all. This second barrier kicks in when we do start interacting. Number 2, I call the second barrier to connection pseudo-rejection. What this means is we think we've been rejected, but we haven't. In fact, we've sent the signal of interest so subtly that it just never got received. So when I was in my early 20s, I remember I was at a sandwich shop, and then the girl taking my order was like flirting with me, and like throwing an extra slice of cheese or something. And afterwards, I got out and I was talking to my friend Kane. I'm like, why do the people that I'm not interested in always seem to flirt with me, but then the ones that I am interested in don't? And he like cracked up because he's like, she was flirting with you because you were flirting with her. I'm like, no, I wasn't. He's like, yeah, you like flirt with like everybody except the people that you like. So let me tell you how this links in with pseudo rejection. There was another research study that I reference all the time because it had such a big impact on me. In it, they took people who, like me, were afraid of rejection and got a bit anxious once they were around people they liked. They made them interact with people in short kind of romantic interactions. And then they had them rank how interested were you in that person. And then they would see, what did the other person think? Did they receive that? And what they found multiple times was that if you are more anxious, you think that you are coming across a lot more interested than you actually are. The anxiety is suppressing all those natural signals of attraction and interest. And so even though you feel like it's coming out, it's getting blocked. And so the other person doesn't have a chance to see it. In fact, what they found is that the more attracted somebody was who was anxious, the less interest they appeared to show. Think about what this means, right? If you're interested in someone and you're a little bit anxious, then you may not be conveying it very well. Like those things that clamp us down may be cutting off more than you realize. And so potentially you think you're showing interest and the other people aren't picking it up. And so when they don't respond, it feels rejecting, right? But they may have had no idea that you're into them. So all this happening is expected. When we are afraid of something happening, we kick in protective systems to try to prevent it. When we're in social situations, that looks like kind of clamping down on our social signals. We try to prevent rejection, or we're concerned that our interest might be unwanted. So maybe we talk a little more surface, we don't reveal as much about ourselves, we aren't as animated, we aren't as warm. And all of these things can inadvertently cut off connection and kind of push people away. I don't have the space to get deeply into it here, but if it sounds like this may come up for you, this may be something that you deal with, then you can click the link below where I can get more deeply into it and what to do about it. Okay, so I have a question for you, which may help figure out where you fall with this. When you like somebody, can people tell? For some of us, no one can tell. It's completely hidden. I used to hide my interest even when people were sending me all these positive signals because I couldn't be certain that they weren't going to reject me. Which leads us to our third barrier to connection. Number 3, dismissed interest. A few years ago, I was working with a guy and he'd been on a bad date the previous week. So he came in and I was curious to see how he was doing. We're going to work on some new stuff. He came in and he told me that he was shocked. And I asked him, like, what's going on? He's like, well, you remember that date I had last week that I said went really badly? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I got a text a couple of days ago asking me why I didn't ask her out again after we had such an amazing first date. So what happened here? How could he have gone on what this woman thought was an amazing first date, but that he had interpreted as being so bad that he never bothered to communicate with her again? Most of us work with a cautious bias of interpreting attraction signals. What this means is if somebody is sending us signals of interest, we are inclined to be more cautious because we don't want to get it wrong. What I find that means is sometimes we'll set like a standard where I'm going to assume that no one's into me unless they're super, super obvious about it. But they're not going to be super obvious about it because they're being appropriately cautious like they're supposed to be. You might have seen in a previous video I talked about how we only identify 28% of the time that people are flirting with us. We miss it the majority of the time. And there's other research showing that we are no better than chance, no better than a coin flip at figuring out whether somebody's into us. If, like me, you are inclined towards anxiety, there is a very well documented negativity bias, whereby ambiguous social information, like whether someone's into us or not or how things went, we are inclined to assume it went badly. The rule is, hey, if it's neutral, ambiguous, it's probably negative. Putting all this together, right, what does it mean? Well, it means that if people are sending us the expected level of warmth, there's a really good chance that we are going to dismiss it. If you want to see this in action, whenever you next start dating somebody, ask them when they first started getting into you. Because what you'll tend to find is that it was way earlier than you got the idea they were into you. Okay, so is some guy on YouTube telling you that everyone is secretly into you? No, that is not how this works. Most people are not going to be romantically into you. That is okay. That is how it is supposed to be. We're just concerned here about the people that could be into you. We want to find them and allow that to emerge over time. So case in point, when I was figuring all of this stuff out, I forced myself to try to prevent each of these 3 barriers from happening. I tried to catch myself when I was preemptively rejecting myself and say, no, I will just go find out and discover if there is a connection. I was very much trying to turn up that dial, be more obvious, non-verbally obvious, not shutting myself off for safety behaviors, choosing to verbally communicate interest, sometimes ask people out, and also not to allow my negativity bias to assume that people weren't into me based on their ambiguous signals, and instead just find out, just ask for investment, see what happened. When I did this, I discovered a lot more people who were into me, and that is totally fine. Because I also came across more people who were into me. Finding the people who you do fit with is so valuable, right? That this is why we chase this, why we're going through all the pain of the whole dating process. What we're looking for is just fundamentally valuable for humans. If you find the right people, that could be a source of just immense value the rest of your life. When I'm working with people, what I always encourage, stay open. Like, don't shut down and close off. Like, stay curious. Like, you wanna have a discovery mindset. Discover if somebody's interested. Discover if this is going anywhere. Don't decide it. Don't shut it down early, give it a chance. And then if you can, spend more time around any particular person. That'll allow the anxiety to come down. Allow yourself maybe to do some subtle flirting as you feel ready for it. Go first. So be the social leader, be the person who takes a little more risk, shows a little more warmth. You might find that that allows the other person to reciprocate. They may be cautious themselves. And then when windows of opportunity show up, then you can ask the other person for investment, right? Their contact information, to ways to spend more time together. If those come up, take them. Okay. If you're thinking, like, I don't want to be more obvious, like, that sounds pretty risky. Well, luckily for you, that is why humans invented flirting and the gradual escalation of interest. So watch this video next to understand that better.